Welcome to Gut Check Project. It's episode number 30. I'm here with your host, Dr. Kenneth Brown. Eric Rieger here, sitting now with the founders of Unrefined Bakery in the DFW area. It's Anne Hoyt and Taylor Nicholson. Thank y'all so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Founders. We got the stars of Unrefined Bakery here.
Unrefined Bakery.
The stars.
We are glad to be here, y'all.
That is
I
awesome.
feel like every single show, we just keep taking it up a notch. I'm like, how are we going to beat this? And you go, I know how we're going to beat it. We're going to bring Anne and Taylor on.
People that bring cupcakes.
Yes.
Yes.
Cupcakes that won't make you sick.
There you go.
Yeah, that is no joke. We're going to get to that obviously later in the show. Unrefined Bakery being an incredible place that, honestly, it's great food that happens to not make you sick. I don't care that they feature that it's gluten-free and that it could be soy-free or corn-free. They have all of the things to take care of people who have food allergies. The fact is, the food is great. It just happens to be made of awesome stuff.
Well, I'll be totally honest. Eric loves your store. He's been eating your food. I have not heard of it. So this morning I'm in clinic and I had a bunch of people and I said, well, I'm unfortunately I have to keep moving here. I have to get to go do a show, and I explained who I'm doing the show with. And I love Unrefined Bakery. I go every time I go to a vegan conference, they're there. Every time I do this, every single patient talked about you guys, and I'm like, okay, we got some rock stars showing up today. I better have my game face on.
Yeah.
Well, so quick, we just have to pay the bills right quick. Don't forget that every Gut Check Project is sponsored by Autron Teal. lovemytummy.com/KBMD to get your discount. Of course, it's polyphenols created by the gentleman right across the table from me here, Dr. Ken Brown. Anything to add for Autron Teal before we talk to the ladies of Unrefined Bakery?
Well, only thing to add is that everything that you guys tell your clients, we also tell our clients, which is we're trying to develop a healthy gut, which leads to a healthy lifestyle, which leads to anti-aging, which leads to health span. It's no longer about lifespan, it's about health span. How do we live a happy, healthy life where we share in this with everyone? And the relationship that you two have is so similar to what Eric and I have. I'm actually Eric's father.
Perfect.
And we started a business together.
So
yeah,
great.
I mean,
You look
this
great.
is
Yeah.
it's the
Awesome.
polyphenols.
That's fantastic.
It's an anti-aging molecule.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well,
It's working.
You want to know what's really cool?
What?
Eric's a grandfather also. Yeah.
You're a great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
That's amazing.
It's news to everyone.
Well, that's just so great.
Breaking news here on the show.
Where do we go with that?
I think teaming up with Unrefined Bakery and discussing the issues of gluten and celiac disease is so close to my heart. So what we could do today is I want to talk about celiac disease. We always geek out a little bit, and clearly you two know your stuff on some science. Your sister's a physician. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yes.
so you guys talk science at home. We'll talk a little science. We'll talk a little about celiac in general, getting people up to speed. Everybody's like, celiac, do I have a wheat allergy? Do I have celiac disease? Do I have gluten sensitivity?
Right.
Oh, it's all BS. Who cares? That's all just Hollywood stuff.
Yeah,
We're going to get into all that.
And something to add, a part that Ken doesn't always get to see is whenever we refer a patient to visit with our dietitians here locally, like Susan Linke. Unrefined Bakery is always a stop that she's continuously recommended for the last several years, because when people try to bridge over to enjoying foods that they can then safely enjoy, Unrefined Bakery has been a great beacon that you don't have to give up things that taste great. You really don't. So let's start with the science. I mean, y'all have been a great savior for.
Yeah, we're gonna let you guys go into the whole story about this, talk about food, but because this is the Gut Check Project, our whole motto is you check your ego at the door, and we can talk about anything. So today we're gonna talk a little bit about celiac disease. I just mentioned in clinic, everybody knew you guys. One of the things, overview, it's a common autoimmune issue. If you're listening to this show and you're like, celiac, blah, 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 I'm not gonna do this. Basically, what happens is your body starts attacking your small bowel. But pay very close attention to this show, because as it turns out, the prevalence is increasing a lot. We used to think it was like 1 in 3,000. The most recent studies have shown that it's like 1 in 184. That was an Italian study that just came out not too long ago. We now know that 15% of new celiac diagnoses are in people older than age 65. So you were quoting Alessio Fasano right before we started this. I had a patient today that said, you know what? Is it possible that you can develop this later in life? And I'm like, 15% of the new diagnoses are happening at age over 65. So if you think that you don't know or you will never get this, pay attention to this because there is a chance that you could have this. So you may have celiac, not even know it. We're going to get into that. This is not an allergy by definition. It's a little bit different than gluten sensitivity. We're going to talk about all that and clarify it. But before we do this, Eric is a huge history buff.
Yes, I'm gathering
I'm
this.
sure.
Your son, you pass that down.
Yeah. Learned it from Dad.
Inherited traits.
So, one other quick thing. We always forget to do this. Although I'm a medical doctor, you are a CRNA and you provide medical care. This show is not intended to treat, diagnose, or do anything that they should. But we're just not. This is for fun.
Yeah.
But you're going to learn a lot.
If you have
That's the key.
Informational.
Yeah,
It's informational.
If you have a funny looking toe, get it checked out.
Yeah. If you've got some unusual growth,
Don't
go to
send me any
Unrefined
help.
Bakery first.
Yeah,
Get-
Well, no, do go to Unrefined Bakery. It'll make you feel better.
Yeah. If
Buy
you
a cupcake, feel better.
You know what? That's the issue.
Go
That's
to-
going to be a new recommendation. If you do happen, this is not diagnosing or treating, but it will make you feel better. If you notice an unusual growth, swing by Unrefined Bakery before you go to the doctor to get that diagnosis
Yeah.
so that as you're munching, it's
That's
like,
right.
oh.
Take one to your doctor.
Yeah,
so
bring
that he's
some for
happy.
their
There you
office.
go.
So
Yeah.
they'll treat you better.
Right.
All right. So what I would like to do is our first ever history quiz.
Let's do it.
And I'm going to assign awards and points on this one. So we're going to do a little history
I'm
quiz.
gonna win. Yep.
So this is going to be about the history of celiac disease.
Okay.
All right. In 1888, celiac was first described by this person. Eric, you get first crack at the answer. 1888, celiac was described by this person.
Don't know his name. I just assume that it's, you're pointing at something. It looks like, was it Samuel?
Good job.
Oh, you want me to say Bernie Sanders?
All right, so my son is horrible at
1888.
improv. I mean, just
1888.
absolutely horrible.
I'll
We've
be-
been working
I think
on
he's
this.
working. I
Well,
think he's working.
I thought you wanted me to guess, so I was thinking.
Right.
But I
You
think
probably would have guessed Bernie Sanders, though, right?
that's where I was going.
1888.
Well, he was there.
Right?
Trump
Yeah.
is happy.
Naturally.
I'm just saying.
Taylor, what would be your answer in 1888?
I'm probably going to go with Samuel Gee, the English pediatrician. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, a little closer there.
Okay, got it.
The English pediatrician. Anne, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, Articus to Cappadocius in 200 AD.
Wow.
Just saying. I actually knew that.
She did know that.
And why do you know that?
I wrote a paper for the Baylor Journal in 2014
Nice.
on
We got
celiac
some smart
disease.
people on the show today, Eric.
Definitely. So he was a Greek physician, correct?
He was. Yep. He cut open the stomach and was looking at how wheat interacted with it and didn't totally understand it, but knew that it definitely caused trouble. Called it celiac or something.
Yeah.
Koelic.
2nd century AD, they were
that
already
crazy?
realizing. And we have people today going, that's BS.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, humans have only really eaten gluten for 12,000 years,
Yeah.
probably. And so,
Hence
Bernie
came
Sanders was
allergies.
there too.
Poor Bernie.
Yeah, poor Bernie.
So,
He probably invented
Eric-
the paleo diet.
Eric, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Something occurred in the Second World War that allowed us to realize that celiac disease was caused by gluten. Eric, why do you think that is?
Well, Ken, is this when Wonder Bread donated millions of loaves and the Allied forces shot the Germans with ultra-refined white bread causing diabetes?
It would have worked and would have delayed the end of the war. Good guess. I'm not
Thanks.
saying you're wrong,
That was really organic.
I know.
you know? And so, all right, Ann, I'm gonna throw it at you.
It was the shortages, the food shortages.
There we go.
And the incidences of gut disease went down.
In the absence of eating the food they'd previously eaten.
Right.
That caused trouble. So without eating the food they were accustomed to eating, their gut troubles went away in the absence of food. So
Food allergies discovered
We're
for
not
sure.
just bakers.
No.
Oh my gosh, we have. So, one last question before we do it. But if you have any history questions or a history buff, make sure you pop into Unrefined Bakery and just throw out random questions.
Make sure you ask for Ann on that one.
yeah.
All right, so it was actually a Dutch doctor that noticed that his patients were getting better during that. So the last question, this is not going to be a completely academic session. The last history question, Eric, how did this Dutch doctor figure out that gluten was the cause?
I believe he locked his kids in cages and gavaged them with pretzels. And that's just wanted to see how sick they got.
Okay, so we've had several shows where we describe how animals have been gavaged, and we are always so Eric really likes the word gavaged.
Yeah, especially when it's written out for me.
I didn't
love it
even
a
know
lot.
the word.
No, you're wrong.
I'm
So
gonna use
I'll throw this one to Taylor.
So pretty close to that.
Thank you.
He did take these kids and he gave these celiac children and he gave them wheat and then he just weighed the kids' poop and he looked for fat in it to see if they were passing that fat.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I did not know this.
You
part.
didn't know that part?
Didn't came up. Didn't came up.
Yeah, and then so
That's awesome.
That was sad.
he figured out that the toxic part of the food was
That ain't no good.
alcohol. It was alcohol soluble, and then they figured this out. So it's very fascinating that it's been growing for a long time, and now we're finally at this point. So celiac disease. Now that we know the history, I just want to give a quick recap as a physician about celiac disease so we can get off the science and talk about the goodness that is sitting on our table right here.
Absolutely. So just to reintroduce again, it's Anne and
Taylor,
her daughter. I was exposed to walking into Unrefined Bakery a couple of years ago in Frisco,
Okay.
and it was awesome. My wife was gluten-free, and I just happened to stop in. I grabbed a few treats. I was like, man, I hope this is good, because you don't always get a great tasting product whenever it's gluten-free.
That's the common.
That's so true.
That's the common
And
occurrence.
When I took it home, it was instant delectable delight for her. She's like, this tastes fantastic. Are you sure it's safe? And I was
Right.
like, they said it was.
Right.
She felt great. Came back. We've been customers ever since.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you shop in our Frisco location mostly?
Mostly because it's the closest one to our GI Center.
Awesome.
So it's just up the road on Preston for us to get to it. So yeah, it's great. So Ken, you want to ask them how they got it all started?
Yeah, absolutely. So celiac disease, we already kind of mentioned that it's super prevalent. It's an autoimmune process that's happening. How do you guys know so much about celiac disease?
Well, we're kind of science nerds to the core, and Taylor's little sister Erin got sick in college. She broke her ankle and got MRSA in her bone marrow, and the treatment for MRSA was very harsh. And once she got over that, which was awesome, she got just sicker and sicker and sicker. Had strep 6 times one year and mono twice that year, and was really failing to thrive, and then began bleeding internally. Took her to a doctor. He was amazingly efficient and asked her her heritage, and we're Swedish, and he's like, let me check for celiac disease. Sure enough, he biopsied her and she had it, and then we read about it, and I was like, wow, Taylor's been symptomatic since birth, and I'd been symptomatic since about 18 or 19 years of age, with it really increasing after pregnancy. So we're like, well, it's just food, let's just stop eating it. So we did.
I was diagnosed with milk protein intolerance as an infant.
Right.
I was taken off breast
dairy.
milk and put on solids by 8.5 months? So roughly.
Something like that.
I mean, I had quite a few gut troubles. I'm
Right.
surprised she had more children, honestly. I had extreme colic.
Right, but
So-
so she'd been off of dairy forever, and then Erin, like I said, been symptomatic forever, and we all went off gluten together, and truly never looked back. It was
Wow.
just a remarkable change in all of our bodies.
Did you have trouble getting pregnant?
I had 8 miscarriages.
Interesting.
Isn't that so interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, 800 to 900% increase in miscarriage.
I don't even have to kick any science. They're going to do all the science for me.
Isn't
So
that
that is
incredible?
that is
Isn't that
actually one of the
incredible?
things that I ask my patients.
it's just-
Have you had miscarriages? Have you had trouble getting pregnant? And
And I did not, but I've been gluten-free long before I had my children.
There you
so
go.
Beautiful.
I've been gluten-free for,
And
years
obviously
ahead
that
of my
never
kids.
came up, never came up.
so when you said that your daughter was bleeding internally, you mean that she was anemic and they were doing the workup for anemia, or she was actually
She had
actively
blood in her
bleeding?
stools.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we just took her right into a gastroenterologist that did a biopsy. That's the first thing he did. So she got,
Wasn't it her infectious disease doctor first who passed her on, given her heritage? I thought he looked at
I
her
don't
and
think
was
so.
newly out of school and was like, "You're so
no,
blonde and blue.
her
Where are you
doctor,
from?"
her doctor was newly out of school and
okay.
asked her heritage.
You're so blonde and blue.
In
Oh,
terms
you're
of-
hypoxic. We need to get some air in you.
You know, Northern European, the
Blue
whole,
eyes.
the
Except
whole
that it's,
descent.
but it's different now.
Sure,
With getting
but-
wheat across the world, now it's equally distributed across the globe.
But this is, I mean,
Right.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
So they knew a
Super
little less.
interesting. But
So-
we didn't even hesitate. We just went off gluten.
Let me ask you a question as a mom, because I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. Eric has an 18-year-old and 17?
Almost 16.
Almost 16-year-old. when you see a child that's sick, it takes everything out.
Can't you just see it? Like I see kids that, and I'm like, oh, you have celiac disease. Like I can just see it. I know what Erin looked like as a baby, and her eyes were always like terrible circles, and she and Taylor always had like skin stuff, and Erin was just, her hair didn't grow right. Like she was just pale and not well. And once she went off gluten, it just changed. It was just remarkable for all of us, but more so for she just wasn't okay.
Man, that's great.
She had, I was symptomatic since birth, but I had different symptoms than my sister had.
And you had pretty much self-selected already. Like you just didn't eat bread anymore.
I wouldn't
for
eat bread,
decades.
or
You
pizza
hadn't eaten
or
bread.
pasta. I kind
Forever.
of self-selected as a kid. I was like, I don't like that.
So you knew that it was making you feel bad. You were feeling
From a
poor.
very young age,
Yeah.
long before I probably could even correlate it together, I knew that I stopped eating those things. And she would be like, why don't you want pizza as a kid?
Because we lived on.
Well, I
we
don't
loved
want pizza. I don't
but
like
Erin
it.
and I ate
Sure.
more. Like a lot of people, you eat more of what is making you sick because you don't understand it.
Right.
Your body kind of craves that thing that's making you sick. So that's not uncommon. So Erin and I ate extra bread and pasta.
But we
Taylor
seem to see both sides of it, and with our customer base, like we'll talk to moms whose kids have, are celiac, but also maybe have other combined allergies, and she'll say it's really weird. He stopped eating these things even before we knew he was allergic,
Right.
and I was like, well, we kind of have used the term self-selecting for that because we see it really frequently. Like kids, like my older son doesn't tolerate dairy well. He doesn't eat dairy. He doesn't choose it. He doesn't eat it. Does he have an allergy? No, but he just doesn't tolerate it well. So it's interesting how you already sort of know that it's doesn't jive well with your system, so you avoid it. I did the same thing without even knowing it. So.
Sure. Well, that's kind of how my wife started. She was like, I feel bad and I don't know why.
Sure.
I feel bad, and then suddenly she starts drawing associations to whether it happened to be enjoying a beer or suddenly it was bread or pizza. But then suddenly you're like, what do all these things have in common? I need to go get checked out.
But back in the day, because I can remember seeing a Dr. Phil Donahue show.
Sure.
And they had somebody on like I don't even know what
The other
years those
Dr.
were.
Phil?
So, yes, like so long ago. Oh, he wasn't a doctor. He was Phil Donahue. My bad. It was the Phil Donahue. Thank you, Dr. Phil. God,
I was like,
nothing
no.
like putting two generations together. Anyway, a long time ago, probably in the.
Which one had the mustache?
Donahue. No, they
No.
both do, right?
Did Donahue have
I don't think
Donahue
Donahue
doesn't
had
have a
one.
mustache.
He was
married to
before me,
Margaret
I don't
Thomas.
know.
He just had white
Anyway,
hair
they-
at the age of 20.
Yeah.
But they were talking about a wheat allergy, and I can remember thinking, well, who would be allergic to bread? Like, it was so not in our consciousness.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it just was. And with her colic, I remember I was eating a lot of eggs and a lot of dairy because it's good for you, right? And I ate a lot because I was nursing her, and I kind of cut it out for a week, and she got better. I thought, well, it can't be that, so I didn't keep it going because it just never. That was 1982 and 3, or 3 and 4. They weren't talking about this stuff back then.
Right.
I mean, they were, but it was. There were some diagnosed cases of celiac disease then, as there were, in the 20s and earlier, but not in the mainstream.
I would say people that still don't quite understand the seriousness that can happen from high gluten exposure to people that have celiac disease, they still dismiss it as it not being a real thing.
Right.
There's patients with celiac disease who dismiss it as not being a real thing.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
sure you
let's-
see it often.
Yeah.
They'll be like, well, last week I just ate whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
But I don't even feel bad. I'm like, well, then you must have asymptomatic celiac disease, but your gut hates you. I
Correct.
promise.
Right.
I mean, I don't tell them that, but that's what I think.
Sure.
Right.
So everybody has a story about their gluten, and I
Right.
mentioned mine. So my researcher that helped me develop Outron's Heal, our whole thing with Brandy was that she was working for me, and she had enamel problems. She kept going to the dentist and having teeth issues. And then we were going to enroll her in a study, and her liver tests were up. And she was sick, and she had these weird rashes, and she'd been worked up. Came from Iowa, where the Iowa doctors said, "Oh, you're fine. It's IBS. It's all fine." And then we were trying to enroll her in the study. She had increased liver tests. We ended up testing her, figuring out she has celiac disease. So then out of courtesy, after we diagnosed this, she started feeling better. I would go to lunch with her, and I would be gluten-free, and I wouldn't have these other issues. So, and I checked myself with my at least blood test. I don't have celiac. But then I just started thinking, wait a minute. This whole concept of gluten, you can call it whatever you want, gluten sensitivity, gluten intolerance, all the other things. So when you say that the spectrum,
Right.
And anybody that's listening to this that says, I have celiac disease, but I cheat all the time. Well, you have the risk of developing all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
Lymphoma. You have the risk of developing osteoporosis. You may not be running to the bathroom all the time. You may end up with uveitis, which is an infection in the eye. This can trigger, and here's the biggest thing that I tell all my patients. You have one autoimmune disease. Now you're at risk for every other autoimmune disease. We have to control the one so that you don't end up with thyroiditis, autoimmune hepatitis, ankylosing spondylitis, and all these others.
Right.
So when people come into your store and they're like, yeah, I like your cupcakes, but I have celiac, but I don't tolerate it. My answer to everyone that I talk to is, do you want lymphoma? Do you want to develop ankylosing spondylitis? And now we're seeing in the future that if people carry this, it leads to inflammation. We know that inflammation leads to dementia and things like that. Right. So protect the gut, protect your body.
But people will come to that in their own time, in their own way. You can't, I don't preach gluten.
Well, we obviously don't. I mean, we're not doctors. We're not offering medical advice in our stores. They ask our experience and what we've seen from our customers, and we give them, stories and tales of what has helped us or some of our other customers, but we're obviously not going to tell them, well, what we may do is say, well, we have an awesome pizza crust that you can take home and make your life easier to where you don't feel like you need to order out and you can still stay gluten-free. We try to just let them know about the options we have because it is very challenging. I mean, I think my mom and my sister and myself approach being gluten-free from a perspective that not everyone does. I think we looked at it and we're like, well, celiac disease, probably the best disease you can have. It's completely manageable. It doesn't give you bad side effects if you do it properly, and it's not that difficult to wrap your brain around doing it properly, at least from how we approached it.
You just have to accept that food
it is what it is,
food.
And food is medicine to us.
Right.
So,
well, let's look at it beyond it not being the worst disease. You turned it into a pillar of a great business.
Yeah, but even before, we didn't do this for about 4 years. One guy came in, he goes, "Isn't this the worst thing that ever happened to you?" And I said, "No." I said, long before we started this company, no, it was the best thing.
Right.
Because look at what it did. I mean, I was what I thought was a super healthy 48-year-old. Like I was in great shape. Went off of gluten, and I was 20 within 2 weeks.
But you weren't. You still had fibromyalgia and other things and joint pain. Well, once you were gluten-free, yes.
Right. But I mean, I think relatively speaking, at 48, compared to other 48-year-olds, I was remarkably healthy. And I thought it was just age. I'm like, oh, I'm aging. I wasn't aging at all. To heck with that. It was just the food. So why would you eat something that's making you sick?
Yeah, I try not to.
As I drink my Dr. Pepper still every now and then. So I mean,
we will talk about that. So we're going to get into that also.
We'll table that for a second.
Can't into that.
I'm just saying, I'm not perfect.
There is a podcast that I like to listen to as entrepreneurs, as people. Podcast called "How I Built This."
Love it.
I want to know how you guys built this.
Awesome. So my background. So my grandfather, mom's dad, had a franchise of restaurants that he started in the late 50s, that he became a franchisee for in the late 50s. So restaurants are sort of in our blood, but never something I thought I wanted to do. Restaurant hours were not something I had an interest in.
Been there, done that.
I studied finance and accounting, and I used to do litigation consulting. It was what brought me to Dallas. She came to Dallas shortly after I did. Probably my sister graduated, was off at college and beyond. So she moved, and go ahead.
I hated my job.
I did not hate my job.
She didn't hate her job, but it was grueling, and I hated my job, and I had always baked. And
what was your job?
I came down here as a banker. I'd been working with my dad, and I'd been a stockbroker previously. I have an econ degree. But I hated my bank job that brought me to Texas, but I loved that I came to Texas, and I was like, I'd rather die than keep this job. Like, I've got to do something different. And so she began making these food bars for Aaron in college, because Aaron's now celiac and needs food, grab-and-go food. Well, back then,
if you believe it, it was before there were bars on the market.
Right.
You were making the bars?
For my
sister.
Was
making food
I've
bars
always
for Aaron.
Cooked.
Okay.
Nice.
So
she was making food bars.
She was tired of just eating, nuts and dried fruit,
Sure.
which is all she had available.
Right.
This was years ago. So
So
Lara Bar did not exist.
So Taylor, then she packages them and gets this cute little gold tea, and then she puts a label on the back, and I was like, and then she gives them to people as wedding gifts, as what's it called?
I don't know.
Whatever.
Goodie
all
bags.
the people,
Goodie bags.
Goodie bags.
Yeah.
So then I said, well, it was my idea to start a bakery. She goes, well, do it. Because if you don't, I'm going to do this. And I was just terrified to bake. I had tried several recipes, and they had just failed miserably. one day I did like 4 different recipes of cornbread and several recipes of brownies, and they were just the worst things ever. And I've been baking since I was little, and I haven't thrown away food since like 1963 or something. So anyway, I was like, fine, I will learn how to bake. So I just really jumped into it, started reading about the different properties of the different flours.
Nice.
Because different flours have different properties. And I figured out about some blends by stealing some recipe ideas from a lady. And then I took that recipe and I morphed it and took some of the ingredients out. And then we just started baking. I made some bread that I thought would work, and it worked, and it was great.
So we adapted old family recipes that
Right.
were passed down from grandmothers that she had, quick breads and dinner breads and things like that, and
Right.
just adjusted them to being gluten-free and dairy-free.
Once we figured out how to do the
I've always been
flours.
dairy-free. I've been dairy-free since I was diagnosed dairy-free at 8 months. So we started adjusting all the recipes, and we realized, hey,
So you're able to take old family
We
recipes.
did.
that's exactly how we
Convert them.
started.
Our
Yeah.
first 19 recipes were family
They were sort of our
recipes.
original. We still have almost all of them.
That's nice.
That is so cool. There's legacy in this.
Yeah.
There's
Oh, yeah.
tradition. That is awesome.
And like my mother baked, her mother baked, her mother, like it's just been mother's whole side are huge bakers. And then my dad's side are super bright, smart, academic kind of people. And she and I are kind of the combination of both sides, which is
I actually don't love to
massively
bake,
cool.
which is comedy, considering it's my business. But
Right.
I love helping people, and I love serving others, and I love our product, and I love what we stand for.
But
Baking,
you're the nutrition side.
yes, and I
she's
like
the
to make
super
everything
nutrition
healthier.
side.
Sure.
And that's definitely of interest to me and always has been. So she took family recipes, and then I would adjust it. We would make it vegan, or we would cut the sugar. We would increase, whatever it is that we were doing.
But
So
I would make sure that it tastes, like if it didn't taste good, like it had to be good and gluten-free first. And then if we could take out the dairy. And she was so good at it that nothing has dairy in it anymore. Like we just got great at taking the dairy out. But and then we lowered the sugar significantly. But if it doesn't taste good, you're not going to eat it.
Right.
So there's that balance of, yes, it's gluten and soy and dairy and corn-free and 50% less sugar and it's organic, but does it taste good? And so you have to draw that line at having enough sugar that it's still palatable while knowing that you don't want people living on sugar. So we're a really good yin and yang of making sure that the nutrition is acceptable while it still really satisfies that
Optimal while
need.
edible.
yes,
I
that's
like
great.
that.
Yes.
That could be a T-shirt. Unrefined, optimal while edible.
Yeah, nice.
Edible while
But we,
optimal.
yeah, sure. So we started just the two of us.
What year was that?
August of
2010.
2010.
Nice.
Well,
March
we started subleasing space of 2010. January through March, we sort of worked on website, ordered labels, things of that nature.
Our first customer came in and we literally went,
So we were
How'd he
subleasing
find us?
space
We just
6
couldn't
days a
believe it.
month. So
You did what? I'm sorry?
we were subleasing space from
she was
like
doing South
private
Beach
chef who
diet.
did South Beach diet. I mean, this is a long time ago
Yeah,
when like
sure.
South Beach
South
diet
Beach
was still a
diet.
thing. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody even knows what that is today. But so she wasn't a gluten-free facility, but she was
I mean, it was.
she
had no
was
wheat in
gluten-free
it.
because
had
she
no
was
flour
South
in
Beach.
it.
She didn't do any grains. So we subleased space from her 1 day a week, and then 2 weeks of the
every other
month,
Friday.
2 days.
Right.
So 6 days a month is when we started, and that was the end of March of 2010. I think the second week we were there, somebody walked in.
Yeah,
And we
this
had a
tall, thin
website,
guy, we're like,
But
where'd you come
and
from?
he's like, is this where I can buy gluten-free products? And we were
We couldn't
kind of
believe
it.
like, what? How do you find us? I mean, we have a website, but
Let's back up just a little bit. I'm super into how businesses are built. So
Mm-hmm.
are you guys sitting in your kitchen making this stuff together and then
No.
taking it to this place?
I was in my kitchen doing most of our recipes, and she was in her kitchen doing the food bars.
Mm-hmm.
And we honestly thought the food bars were going to take off and that the other stuff wasn't, because she found outlets. She sent food bars or hand-delivered food bars to a lot of people. They weren't podcasts back then.
no, food blogs.
Food blogs. So she
I've
would
been in
send
a
it-
food blog situation for, 15 years.
Nice.
Right. So
So-
we did that, and then we went to a celiac support group in Dallas, and then we went to one in Fort Worth or North Richland Hills.
North Richland Hills. Mhm.
And brought our food. And at one of those, 2 interesting things happened there. The first question they asked was, "Are you soy free?" And we're like, "Huh." And she and I never had had an issue with soy and really weren't paying attention to things besides dairy and gluten. And we're like, well, no, but we can be, because it happened in both groups that we met with, so we figured it must be important. And then at one of the meetings, a blogger for the Dallas Morning News Moms blog was at one of the meetings. So then she came to us and asked if she could interview us.
And she's celiac.
Nice.
Yeah, she's celiac.
Right.
So she came and she interviewed us and did a story in the Dallas Morning News, the Mom's blog, which got maybe the most hits they'd ever gotten on a story.
That's what they said, comments.
Yeah, like 80 comments on the story. So then Nancy Chernin with the Dallas Morning News.
Well, hold up. So we were baking in our original kitchen separate on our very own kitchens. We'd already quit our jobs. We quit our jobs at the end of 2009. So,
Was that a real difficult decision? You know, because you wanted out. Was this a difficult decision for you?
So I got married the end of August. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's
so
okay.
I
You
got
can always hit that if you're doing
perfect.
that. Yeah, we have Eric and I always do that.
I
So.
like it. Okay.
Sometimes.
So you didn't teach me that. So now I know.
I was so much more interested in the history quiz.
So I got married August of 2009, and I quit my job in November. I think, and my husband like August 29th. So I mean, we're talking like a month later, and my husband's like, "Yeah, I'm not sure if I married a baker." He's like, "Last I checked, you were doing litigation consulting. What happened to that?"
Yeah, but your hours were horrific.
No, they were. It wasn't something we wanted. It wasn't sustainable to have a family. So, I quit my lucrative
work
job.
harder.
And now I'm an entrepreneur and I work all the time. So it's even better. It's awesome.
Make less money and work all the time.
But I love it. So, and it does. It fills me. So
Do you
I
think
love
you're
it.
helping more people suing them or feeding them
Oh,
good food?
undoubtedly. We are making a huge
amazing.
difference in people's
Definitely.
lives. And it's awesome. So we baked in our own kitchens, yada, yada, yada. End of March, we started subleasing space. That blog came out maybe in April.
Came out super soon.
Quick. I mean, we tried to put ourselves out there, but this is this is before social media. I mean, Facebook existed, but it was like a
But barely.
college
Yeah.
Facebook. It wasn't even for the general public. So it was a totally different situation, which is even hard to believe today. But so then in June, the people we were subleasing space from.
No. We came out in the Dallas Morning News on a Sunday on the back page of the Sunday edition of the
That's right.
of the whatever. You open the newspaper up and we're the full page on the back page titled "Building a Better Bakery." Like I'll never forget it. That Tuesday we sell out. We're like, oh my God! People were so excited. Wednesday they tell the lady we're leasing from that she loses her lease, and we're like, what? They won't let us put a note on the door.
Oh,
Nothing.
no.
So suddenly she's closed. Luckily, we had already leased a second space.
We had seen the success already, and we're like, okay,
We just wanted
we
proof
can
of
do this. So
concept
we
at
were,
first.
we wanted to just prove ourselves. So we were baking one day a week. We would bake and we would freeze.
And we were so tired. Do you remember? We were so tired. We thought it was so hard.
Well, it was
to
all
bake
it
one
was
day a week.
It was
We were
just
so tired.
us. And so then we went ahead and signed a lease and started construction and all of that on our first location. And then we lost our sublease because they lost their lease
the
day
day-
after we came out in the Dallas Morning News.
Crazy.
And
That
we
is
were
crazy.
And we were closed for 2 months because we had nowhere to go.
Oh my.
So the timing was awesome.
This is like with Atrantil,
a
where we get
perfect
knocked
storm.
off. Yeah, we've been like knocked off Google after we did like a big podcast, and you're like, oh,
That's
look
great.
at that. Everybody's looking for us, and you can't find us.
Yeah.
Wonderful. how
People,
those
I remember
things work.
years later, somebody came in and said, "Oh my God, you're still in business. We just assumed that you'd gone out," because it happens all the time in new startups, and especially like there have been several gluten-free bakeries that have started and stopped, and it's starting your own company there's nothing easy about
No,
it.
it's not easy.
No, it isn't.
Definitely not easy.
There's no rules.
So we opened our first, what we call our flagship. It was called White Rock. We used to bake there, and we had a retail presence. We were open Tuesday through Friday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
It was
at
awesome.
first. And we're like, we have a specialty.
Just you two.
Yes.
Still.
We might have hired one person by then.
Our first girl was Anna, who came back to us
Anna
after
is
3
still with
culinary
us,
degrees.
and we love
she came
her.
back to us.
Wow.
I know she's massively overqualified, but she's awesome. But it was us for quite a bit, and then Anna came on, and then we gradually started just hiring people. And then a year later, we doubled that space.
We took over the lease next door and expanded ourselves. So then we had, more retail, more seating,
That's when we added coffees and teas and smoothies.
doubled
and
our freezer
sandwiches.
capacity. So something we do, which is no secret, within about an hour of production, every product we make is frozen. It's packaged and frozen. So
soon as it
gluten-free
cools.
products on the market are sold frozen. This is no mystery. If it's not sold frozen, then it has a lot of stabilizers in it, which is not something we believe in. So
Sure.
we don't do that.
Say that one more time, because
So if it's sitting on a shelf,
It's full of junk.
it has a lot of stabilizers in it. Stabilizers, preservatives.
Chemicals.
Bread, bakeries sell day-old bread. Bread is not meant to sit around for weeks because it molds. It has
Or it gets dry and hard and nasty.
They sell day old bread for a reason.
Sure.
Because
Right.
it's day old. So we freeze all of our product as soon as it's cooled. So it's perfect for you to enjoy for, we say a year. I've definitely found product in my freezer from several years before that we consume in my home.
Sure.
Right.
So do I say
Right.
that to our customers? Should you eat your product 3 years later? I mean, do what you want. We say it's great for a year.
Right.
So,
Right.
but we freeze all of our products. So by then we needed another freezer. So we doubled our space. And then
From a business perspective, sorry to interrupt, but
No.
I love the idea of the
Do you love being
entrepreneur
squished
thing.
between the two of us?
No,
Like,
no. It's as somebody who's an entrepreneur that is in the throes of it. I'm just bogged down by I want to know what the relationship was. Did you have to have somebody analyze the food after a year to say this is safe for a year?
We did our own. I'll take this part. When we used to bake something, we would put it on the counter. We'd wrap it and put it on the counter. We'd put it in the fridge and we'd put it in the freezer. We would date it. And then we would watch to see how it landed, and see how long it stayed soft and whatever on the counter. And it always got hard long before it molded.
Sure.
Like now, a sweetbread, pumpkin, banana bread, it'll mold before it gets hard because it's so moist. But we figured out how it would hold. And that's how we know, we found something in my freezer 3.5 years later that was dated, and we knocked the ice off of it and ate it, and it was amazing.
it's
I
just
couldn't
sort of an
believe
interesting
it.
trial, personally. I mean,
But we did, so we haven't had anything, we're not gluten-free certified because we're dedicated gluten-free. And who was it that said, well, I mean, they say they are. We've just developed this reputation where people know that if we say it's this, then they believe that it is.
Sure.
but
that's
we
great.
also don't have cross-contamination in our space with gluten and soy.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
dedicated.
We built out
Right.
It used to be like a retail facility that is our production facility.
Right.
And every product we buy is a certified gluten-free product.
Right.
And by product, I mean a raw ingredient like organic brown rice flour, organic almond meal. These things are already certified gluten-free on their own. And that's everything we purchase. And we're a dedicated gluten-free facility. And what most people don't understand, these certifications for organic or non-GMO or gluten-free are per product.
Yeah,
They're not
kill me.
per
Oh,
facility.
yeah.
I was gonna
product.
have
Per product
Eric
per
comment on
year.
this because this is the stuff
It's just killer.
would you just tell the audience really quick? So you don't have gluten-free stamp on it, and there's a reason you don't have the
Yeah, the
non-GMO,
certification,
paleo-friendly,
right.
keto-friendly. Explain to the audience what these mean.
You have to pay a license to even have those monikers applied to your label.
Per product.
Per
product.
And then some of them, if it's what is it, the Wheat Foundation, the Celiac Foundation, not only do you pay the license fee, you pay 1% of all of your sales on top of that, because they.
I mean, it's prohibitive for
Sure.
us.
Prohibitive for a
Especially
lot.
with the number of products we have. If we
yeah.
were just trying to distribute 5 products across the US, absolutely they would be certified
Sure.
gluten free. And if and when we ever go that direction, they will be as well. However, am I going to certify all 15 types of cupcakes we sell on a daily basis?
silly.
Absolutely not.
Or all 8
We're
different sandwich
We're
breads
a
and,
dedicated gluten-free
no.
facility. We will never have an issue with cross-contamination with gluten. It's never going to exist or happen. And we have literally not had an issue with customers caring about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or getting sick.
Well, they never could get sick.
Right.
We only purchase certified gluten-free raw ingredients. We have strict protocol. We have signage on our doors that asks you to not bring in gluten-containing items
have
into
asked
our
people to
stores.
leave the
We've,
store?
we've
Wow,
asked customers
really?
to leave. Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because if customers are sitting there at one of our kids' tables and their kids might not be gluten-free, but they open a package of goldfish, it's going to make my next customer sick.
Right.
So
And it could make somebody it would just make me sick for a couple of weeks, but it could send somebody to the ER. People
Sure.
can have.
And so we just ask
huge
people to be
reactions to
respectful,
it.
and they absolutely are.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have people, especially in some of our locations that have sort of a real walkability factor. If they're coming in with a sandwich as they're walking and shopping, we'll just politely ask them to leave it outside because we're a gluten-free facility.
Sure.
And we take it very seriously. Our staff cannot eat outside lunch.
So I just want to clarify one thing, that I love the fact that your reputation precedes you and you are
Right.
above these different labels and stamps and things like that. But these labels and stamps had to come about because people were skirting the system and they were lying. And that's what the supplement industry and that's what the food industry will do. So another industry was built upon it so that they could at least monitor it. And you guys are like, no, we got it figured out.
But I think so often they share a facility, right? Most people don't build out their own production facility.
Correct.
So some gluten-free cracker on the market is being made in another cracker distribution facility. So they have to test for parts per million because they're using the same machinery, because that machinery is hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So they go through a rapid cleaning process, whatever they do, and then they test parts per million to make sure it's under 10 to certify gluten-free because it's on shared equipment. But that's not something we're dealing with.
Nope.
Right.
Because we're our own facility.
I would also say that I'm not sure that I think that people are skirting the system or lying. I think that, like, let's say we don't have this great business and I'm wanting to buy gluten-free stuff because my kids are super sick. So I probably wouldn't have done it for me, but I would absolutely do it for my children, right? Which is a lot of what we see at our stores is that's for their kids often. I would need something that said it was certified, because am I going to trust Blow Joe from, whatever town in some state that I can't get to? We've earned this reputation because we grew organically, pardon the pun, from area to area to area within the DFW area. So we're still in a small area, even as we ship nationwide.
But I also think there's a lot of trust within that dedicated gluten-free facility. I will eat somewhere that's dedicated gluten-free.
Definitely.
I will not eat a cupcake from somewhere that just sells a gluten-free cupcake. Nope.
Because it's probably sitting next to the gluten
I have been
cupcake.
burned on it so many times.
You should see what our facility looks like. Like, we built out a dedicated room in our facility now to do the mixing because flour goes everywhere. And after one recipe, there's just a shroud of flour all over everything within 20, 30 feet.
Her point to that is that if it's a traditional bakery, they're getting that flour
Everywhere.
everywhere. You can't.
All of ours are gluten-free, so we do it for cleanliness and
Right.
various other things.
We
But
did
she's
keep
just
it out of the
saying that
machinery.
I didn't even think about
find
that.
gluten
Oh, it's
everywhere.
It's everywhere. It just goes up in the air. You can't help it. Like, people sometimes get upset that we have sprinkles, right? But some kids, they can eat it, so it's no trouble. So if they can't eat gluten, soy, dairy, corn, eggs, peanuts, tree nuts, but they can eat our cookie and our cake, and they want to feel like a kid by having sprinkles on it, because, Sally gets sprinkles on her cake from whatever bakery. By golly, we're going to have sprinkles. It's not going to cross-contaminate.
Right.
We won't get sprinkles on your stuff. Like,
Right.
it's okay. But gluten, and it flies. It just
Everywhere.
flies, yeah.
So y'all had the first store, and it's now August 2009. We've gone all the way to
2010.
2010. And then suddenly, when did you start to realize, hey, we've got something successful and we might even grow to a point where we have more than one location?
We knew it from the get-go.
Right. So I think it's more of, could we keep up?
Oh, okay.
So we knew that the demand was there immediately.
Sure.
So we doubled up our location. We built out a triple size freezer than what we initially had.
This is at the White Rock location?
And then as soon as we doubled up White Rock, then we're like, okay, a lot of our customers are coming from the north.
Hour and a half away.
Why are people driving from so far north, from McKinney, Frisco? Now it's Little Elm and Prosper, but then it was like Allen, Richardson, McKinney, Frisco. So we started looking up north, and we opened our Frisco store in September of 2013. So
Okay.
it was our second location. Now, we'd already doubled our initial location, but it was our second location.
And
then we
in
opened
November.
We opened our third location in November of 2013. But that was unusual.
crazy.
We would traditionally never open a store that quickly back to back.
Sure.
But
We've done that 2 more times.
it kind of not 2 months apart.
Yeah, we did. We opened Medallion in March, and we opened Fort Worth in June.
So
Medallion
are
was
you
just
guys
a move.
are you all self-financing this whole time?
Yeah, we are.
We're all self-funded.
So that's bold.
Impressive and awesome.
We are crazy. I like to say we're just crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's
man.
part of what our, I wouldn't say delay, but it's not like we have immediately bombarded the whole market.
Sure.
But we see companies do this all the time. And it happens constantly, especially in this healthy eating space. There's multiple name brands that you can look at across DFW that have done this. They have popped up 25 stores, and
Then they close.
22 of them close in 3 years. So it's happened time and again in this healthy eating space. I mean, it happens in restaurants especially, but in retail.
When you expanded, just out of curiosity, obviously going from White Rock up to the Plano, Frisco, McKinney area probably made sense because you could tell where people were driving
Sure,
from, just like
absolutely.
you said.
Plus, we were trying to spread it out.
Sure.
We didn't want to monopolize ourselves.
Within
A
a doable distance.
Okay.
Like, we didn't go to Austin because it would have been too hard to
far.
control.
I understand.
But we felt like we could control from
And we
White
didn't-
Rock to Frisco, and we could.
And we didn't feel like a Frisco market would cannibalize our White Rock
Dallas,
store
right.
either. So that was our initial goal in our growth kind of market. And we looked at some of these other healthy eating space brands that have popped up all over, and we looked at where they were, and we looked at where our customers are coming from. Did we pay and have studies completed? No. We didn't.
Okay.
But we looked at our customer base and where we would want to shop, because we are our own customer.
That's interesting, because there's a friend of mine from my hometown, and he started Taco Casa. And the way he's decided on where he allows people to have a franchise and open up a place is he will look for a Taco Bell and or a McDonald's, and then see what the traffic.
Because they've already done their.
They've done
their
the
due
MA.
diligence.
Right.
So I'm thinking your store in Fort Worth, if I remember right, it's on Hewlin. Is
Yes,
that correct?
it's underneath Central Market.
So not far from Central
literally,
Market, but
yes.
would make sense off of
Right.
Hewlin to be in
Sure.
a place that, okay,
Right.
so is that kind
Absolutely.
of how you piece that together? Because your
Yeah.
Frisco location makes sense.
Right.
I mean,
we're-
we grew up in the business. I've gone with my dad to look at site selection with a national franchise group. So she grew up running those stores. So we kind of knew the brains behind that. But also, we're a destination location, whereas most restaurants are not. Most restaurants, it's a cluster location, but we're more of a destination. We're very unique. So that's why we could open up. Our first location was probably in an A, B, C, D spectrum. It was probably a D location or a C location.
I think it was technically classified as a C location, but
But it didn't matter.
Never, like today, we would never put a location in a C location. But it was our original and our
But
flagship.
it had things that we look for. It had parking, which is a huge thing to us. Like
parking's huge for us. Our, soccer moms are a huge part of our clientele. I am my own clientele. My kids are both gluten free.
So I just want to comment on this because you said something really cool. We could have paid the money to have market analysis, but we knew who our clients were.
we
You're
know our
saying it
customers.
right now.
We
Love
are
that.
our customers. So we have baked for ourselves the entire time, which I also think is why the quality is different than most gluten-free places. We literally eat our own food. And if I don't
All
like
of
it,
our own food.
if I don't like it, we don't make it.
Love that.
Because she calls me a super taster. Like, it's got to have enough sugar, but not
No,
too
it's,
much.
like, really annoying.
No,
but it's great. Both sides.
yeah. It has. If it doesn't taste good, why are you going to eat it? Like, baked food is comfort food. It makes you feel good. Like the first gluten-free bread I had after we got diagnosed was can I say the brand?
No.
Don't say the brand. It was a white hamburger bun. See, look, I filtered.
No.
That has never happened.
Magic.
Put it on the calendar.
Magic.
Never happened. It was a hamburger bun that was shelf stable for a year, and it was on the counter. And it was just almost like eating styrofoam.
How
And I was
delicious do you think that was?
Not
and I was like, so we didn't eat bread. Like, none of us ate bread till we really started baking because we just let it go. Because it wasn't worth the calories. Like, to me,
Sure.
it's like, carbs are a happy calorie, and if it doesn't taste good, then why are you going to eat it?
But it's true. Like we'll dine out, and my kids will say, I'll ask them, I'm like, buddies, do you guys want a hamburger bun today? And my oldest Hoyt, he'll say, well, who makes it? What brand is it? And he's like discerning. He's like, well, if it's that, I don't want that one.
nice.
And
Right.
he doesn't want it. He doesn't like it. It's not his
It's
thing.
it's just not worth the calories.
Well, that's not how a
That's
9-year-old
not, that's
thinks.
not how he says it, but that's what he's thinking. Like, it's just not worth the.
He's like, I don't like it. I'd rather have more French fries.
Sure.
Like
so he's already he's making
Yeah.
those choices
Sure.
without knowing that he's making those choices.
But right, so back to your, did we pay for market analysis? No,
Not on
we
any of
didn't.
this ever.
But we're also not necessarily answering to anyone either. We are,
Which is nice.
We are our board of directors. We are our bank.
Love it.
We have the ability to make those decisions. Where, the larger companies, they might have to answer to their investors or whoever else and say,
Well,
this
they
is
would
why,
have to,
right?
yeah.
This is why they want to put something somewhere, and this shows that. But
So when I read about different successful companies, one that always pops into my head is Southwest Airlines,
Sure.
and the CEO. You know the name of the CEO? I always forget
Gary
his name.
Kelly.
Yeah, there was.
Just keep her around. She knows everything.
It's because we have to deal with this. Where you're like, you cannot please everybody,
Right.
And it's the whole story where a woman was complaining and would send in emails about how she didn't like this, this, and this, which are all standards for Southwest. Like, you're going to wait, you're going to get in Group A, B, or C, and he wrote back, "Thank you for being our customer. We hope you enjoy the next airline you fly." Basically, we're not catering. This is who
Right.
we are. You don't have to cater.
Sure.
The people that want to come to Unrefined Bakery, they know what they're going to get. They don't need a stamp on it. And you built this with
Right.
your model, with your convictions, with your money. And so you don't answer to anybody. And you can do this unapologetically. If somebody says that the super taster did a bad job tasting, doesn't matter. She's a super taster.
There you go.
But on the flip side of that, we do very much listen to our customers.
Oh, absolutely.
And that, I think, has been probably our most pivotal point of our success.
Right.
Is that we listen to what our customers want. Do we listen to their complaints? I answer them all personally.
She doesn't
Still do
let me
every
come
single
close
one of
to
them.
those.
But you know what? We have very few complaints. Our customers love us. People cry in our store. It's actually part of our training for our front of house staff is how to deal with a crying mom because it happens
Really?
all the time.
weekly in every store.
Give me an example
Yeah,
of how
what is
that would
that?
go down.
Okay.
I now want to give one.
Sure, you give one, I'll give one.
Lady comes in years ago. Her husband's with her. It's when we were at White Rock.
But you could repeat this like every week in
Every
the
week.
store. Yeah.
Kids in tow, and they're all like got Cheshire cat grins. And she walks in and she goes, "What's gluten free?" Happens all the time. We said everything, and her husband and kids knew, but she didn't know. It was like their gift surprise to her, and they brought her because I'm going to cry, and she just started crying. And normally it's the parent crying for the kid, but this was the mom that was celiac, and the family had done this for her and brought her to us. And it's why we do what we do. Like it's why we've grown. It's why we've put the money back into the business to get into the market as best we could to make sure that we'd be successful. Because if we didn't grow like we did, somebody else would have come in and grown.
People have come in and some people have already left.
But we needed to saturate the market as best we could with our own limited funds because we think we're the best in the country at what we do. We're organic. We pay attention to the ingredients. We do as little sugar as we can. We do the least harm that we can with the best ingredients that we can to bring you the best product that we can. And I think that we succeed. I mean, I think it's good food.
As a customer, I could say I trust everything that you're saying. It's
Thank you.
delicious.
And
We really care.
We won't ever make sacrifices in terms of the quality of our ingredients. If anything, we have
can
not
make
not
so
if
much
anything,
more
we have
money.
simply improved the quality of our ingredients. We never started being as organic as we are. We're basically 98% organic today.
Sure.
We started off being about 50 or 60%. Like when they were kids, I tried to buy healthy food as best I could within the realm of what I knew back then. And we started off being gluten-free and then immediately went soy-free and then quickly started taking the corn out because people said, "Can you take the corn out?" And we're like, well, and we didn't even use an organic corn at first. And then we're like, well, we can use an organic corn. But even then, it's just a starch and it doesn't really add value, so it's causing people trouble.
But it just snowballs. I mean, the more we know, the better we do. Like that's how we have grown our
And
entire
we're better at
business.
making recipes now. Like everything's better.
How hard is it when somebody says, "Can you do something without soy? Can you do something without corn?" How hard is it to redo these recipes, the familial recipes?
Oh, it's hard.
So it was very hard, but it's complete. So there's nothing more to change at this point. Today we've kind of focused more on growing our keto line. That's been our largest. So these days, not only are we a gluten-free bakery and an allergen bakery in general, that's sort of how we're known, but we're also known for just catering to special diets, whether that's, and I don't mean diet as in, ooh, you're on a diet. I mean diet as in this is how you fuel your body.
Lifestyle choice.
So whether keto, vegan, paleo, those are all diets we cater to tremendously. Vegan, because by eliminating dairy and eggs, such common food allergies, we have vegan products. And then keto, because it's difficult. Keto baking is intrinsically difficult, as is paleo baking. Paleo baking's easier than keto baking.
We need to back up. Paleo baking is no grains, no sugar, no dairy, no legumes. Keto takes it further. They don't want even the sugar from, say, the bananas that we would use in a paleo muffin to sweeten. So they want an alcohol sugar to replace the sweetener so that the body doesn't take it as a sugar. And they want...
And no starch.
And no starch. So you
It's
can't
under
use the
20
tapioca
total
or the
carbs
arrowroot.
per day.
Wow.
Just a little explanation there on
So you're
diets.
baking predominantly with eggs and
Nuts and seeds.
Nuts and seeds. And a lot of people do keto in a very 1990 Atkins way where they're supplementing with cream cheese and other things that they're baking with. But our keto is all organic and dairy-free, which is highly unusual in this space.
That's super hard because when I tried keto, it was basically do cheesy eggs in the morning, cheesy eggs for lunch, and cheesy eggs
Butter
for dinner.
bombs, a little butter, cream cheese, and
Don't eat too
tiny
much
bit of
avocado
strawberry.
because it has too many carbs. You have
that's-
to be really careful.
That's awesome because what I'm hearing though is you're meeting your customer where they're at, but doing it with your standard.
That's
So
exactly right.
We know
We
that,
won't change our
yeah,
standards.
our people come here and I hear that you're wanting this. We're going to try to meet you, but we're going to do it this way
Right.
in the most ethical way possible. I think it's
Somebody
fantastic.
said to me, well, I had a keto cupcake the other day and it was better than yours. I was like, that's awesome.
That's great.
And they emailed me the ingredients to it because they thought we should make it. And I was like, well, we don't use these ingredients. You can't even pronounce these ingredients. Like this does not meet Unrefined's way of doing anything.
Right.
It's not organic pastured eggs. We're just not going to sacrifice our kind of core competencies and core beliefs to make a product that she thought was more palatable. She's welcome to buy their cupcake.
And just to clarify, the reason we do it that way is because we really think that the junk in the food, the reason it's called junk, the chemicals, the preservatives, the additives, the colorings, all that stuff, we believe to our core that is part and parcel to why people are getting so sick. It's not just the gluten and it's not just the dairy, it's not just the sugar. It's the combination of all of that junk.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, so everybody sits there, and so I get this all the time where patients will tell me, "Oh, I don't know, I feel a little sick when I have gluten, but I know that's just a thing that doesn't really exist." And you start looking at, okay, it's not just the gluten; it's the amylase trypsin inhibitor that's there. That's the GMO wheat that allows it to be pesticide free. Now we know that creates intestinal inflammation.
Right.
That's a very simple thing. Now we know. I had a patient today where she was talking about being bloated, and she had her pocketbook out, and a protein bar was sitting right there. And I was like, "Do you mind if I look at this?" And I pulled sugar alcohols. Winner. It said it said non-dairy, non-gluten, but it was making her bloated like crazy. Sugar alcohols.
But look at the maltitol. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And then and so it's funny. You're exactly right. Once it gets put in a package, can sit for a year on a shelf. There's all different kinds of things going on with this.
Right.
So y'all just opened your 7th location?
7th retail location.
7th retail location. And y'all also do special packaging and shipping for people who are on the contiguous 48?
Yeah,
we do. Yeah. We ship to all 48 lower states. The 48 contiguous, as you said.
Yep.
And then we also have a pretty large wholesale business.
Hold on. And one special customer in Alaska, I'll just say.
Nice.
One special shout out to my son in Alaska.
My brother lives in Alaska. Hey, but we used to ship him cookies in Iraq. So
yeah, we did.
Alaska's
nice.
nothing compared to Iraq.
Wow, that's fantastic. And but y'all do cold pack shipping?
So we ship with dry ice across the U.S.,
nice.
but it's not required for everything. So some of our products, especially locally within like a UPS ground delivery system within a day, which is Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas. A pretty good chunk of the regional U.S. that we're in is next day. So most of our products can ship next day, no problem. We ask for you to freeze them to prolong shelf life, but they're not going to go bad in a day. So a lot of people opt against the dry ice shipping, but then things like our cakes and our cookies, we require dry ice shipping for.
Sure.
So a lot of people will add that plus their breads and other things to their cart.
Or
and
pies.
check out. Yeah, we ship our pies.
Pies are fantastic, by the way.
Can you give me, since I've not, so Eric is seasoned with your stores, but I've not been into one of yours, which I'm going to do probably tomorrow. Can you tell me like a brief list of the types of products that you carry or that you make?
Yeah. So when you walk into our stores, we kind of act as though the freezer section of the grocery store you shop at, whether it's Central Market or Whole Foods or Kroger or anywhere else, you look in the freezer section of the gluten-free staples. You have your sandwich breads, your dinner breads, your hamburger and hot dog buns, all your various muffins, and your
pizza crust.
Pizza crust is in our top 3 most popular products. It's awesome.
Pies.
Y'all have doughs too.
We sell
pie dough and cookie dough.
Pie dough and cookie dough. Okay. So I like to say we make everything gluten-free with exception of pasta and crackers. So pasta and crackers are not items we make, nor will we make. People are like, oh, you should make that. I'm like, well, I never made it before. I don't have the equipment for it.
Expertise.
So pasta and crackers are never going to be something in our wheelhouse. It just doesn't work with our model. But anything baked, whether it's quick breads or, and then obviously all of our cupcakes and cookies and custom cakes. Custom cakes are huge for us.
Custom cakes?
Mm-hmm. Anything.
Like 50% of our sales.
No kidding.
Shut the front door.
And who is
a little high.
Well, because I just think that is so labor intensive.
Oh, well, it is, but
really good
where
at
else
it.
are they going to get a gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, corn-free, peanut-free, tree nut-free, egg-free
but
cake?
where else are they going to get a cake that tastes that good?
And that is amazing.
Every recipe is a custom recipe for that item. Like it's
So-
not like we use a mix. Like every recipe is a different.
Do you go so far as to do like wedding cakes and stuff like that?
Oh,
we do.
Absolutely.
Wow, you guys do
That's
not
all
hold
her
back.
area. That is all her area.
Really?
I make it taste good, and she helps people make it pretty.
So we have a cool thing that our unrefined loyalists follow for us. We have our cupcake of the week, or our cow, as we affectionately call it. It launches every Friday. I believe this is the
cult following.
7th year we've done cow. So we've been doing it every week for 7 years, a new cupcake of the week. Launches every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on social media, and then it hits all of our stores that day, whatever time they open. And then lasts until it sells out. And it's always a custom flavor. And we bring back our favorites, like, what's today? Thursday? Tomorrow, one of our...
You're gonna
I'm
say?
going to go ahead and say it.
First
one
time
of our,
ever.
one of our...
Oh, wait, is this like an early leak for the cow?
An early leak for the cow.
Tomorrow is our Cookie Monster, which people go nuts for. So it's like a chocolate chip cake, and it's filled with a chocolate chip cookie cream. And it has a whipped vanilla buttercream topped with chocolate chip cookie crumbles. And it's... People just love it.
You are going there tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
But the best one is the overload, the chocolate overload.
And then we do
it's my favorite.
Chocolate over. So we have like probably 5 most requested cows. The overload's one of them. It's a chocolate cake. It has our fudge brownie baked into the center. And so it kind of is gooey and then crispy on the top. And then it's topped with chocolate buttercream and dark chocolate ganache. We do that in what we call a reverse. And we have fun naming them. We like early on, we do contests for people to come up with new ideas. And like our signature cupcake is called a loaded monkey. And that was one of our early cows, maybe our second or third. And people loved it. And I was like, oh, well, this could be our signature cake.
Sure.
So it is. It's our signature
So we have a
cupcake.
cake with
Loaded
a peanut
monkey.
in it that's our signature cake.
But so our production facility is peanut free. It's a peanut free facility, but our retail stores have peanut, but they don't have peanut for anything that's packaged. So anything that's packaged has never come in contact.
And can I just say the wonderful yin and yang that happens with 2 people that are equal owners, right? And first of all, her friends are like, it's so nice that you let your mom work with you. And my friends are like, it is so nice that you let Taylor help you out with this. Like they are completely convinced that the other one is just along for the ride, right? But Taylor comes to me years ago and says, I think we need to do a new cupcake every week, kind of spice it up. And I said, no, we have vanilla, we have lemon, we have carrot, and we have vanilla with strawberry. That is, and chocolate. Like, who needs more than that?
Who needs more than 5
Who needs
cupcakes
more than
of
that? Like,
variety?
because they were great, right?
We have more than that.
Oh, she is single-handedly with this cupcake of the week. And I could never do it. Like, my brain doesn't think that way. I'm the one that gets in and spends 52 hours nuancing a recipe to make it perfect, which she would never. She'd be like, oh, it tasted fine 3 weeks ago. Like, let it be.
Visionary implementer.
Absolutely.
We're just different. We're just different. She's super creative, and the cupcake of the weeks has just been.
You watch some
could never
YouTube
even-
video of that little chimpanzee eating the fermented fruit falling off the tree, and you're like, loaded monkey. That's our new cupcake right there.
We did a contest for that
We
name.
did.
That is
That's
awesome.
awesome. Anyway, thank God
The cupcake of the
whoever
week.
feels the most strong wins. Like
So
Before
always.
we get into that really quick, I just want to talk science again really quick.
Okay.
So celiac, you can diagnose it through blood and also biopsy and treatment. I have a new treatment. What I'm going to recommend is if you get diagnosed with celiac disease, you will move into an unrefined bakery for a minimum of 3 months
Yes.
and just lay out. Just
Perfect.
just
Like-
realize that you're not going to lose
you
your
guys,
life.
you guys should start doing inpatient rehab for
That's right,
celiac.
that's right. You can tell when
You know-
somebody comes in new. It's like that
They-
orphan Annie deer in the headlight look. And
They look
literally,
scared.
we can spend like 45 minutes with a new person.
Sure.
And we'll walk, depending on what they're allergic to, and we'll walk them through. We sell gluten-free for dummies or living gluten-free for dummies, just because people, they're so overwhelmed by it. And we remember what that felt like.
And food is so intrinsic to our culture. Like when you're told that you or your child specifically can no longer have the sugar cookies for Christmas they're used to decorating with their grandmother, or the birthday cake or cupcakes they can share with their friends, or just a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that the only thing they'll eat in their lunch, you know? I mean, we're talking celiac here and not necessarily other food allergies, but it's so overwhelming for people. Most people don't approach it, I feel like, with the same level of, okay, well, now we're going to be gluten-free that we approached it with, and we realized that. I think we approached going gluten-free with a gusto that most people don't.
We always talk about the fact that being lonely is just as dangerous as smoking. Do you find that people, when they walk in your stores, suddenly find a sense of community?
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yep.
And we hear their
people
stories.
love to talk about their history and what brought them to us and what brought them to gluten-free and how being gluten-free has changed their life. And it's no joke. And it is a community. Like people, everyone talks to each other. They'll come in, there'll be 6 people in line at the cupcake, and they'll be like, oh my God, have you tried the retro? It's my favorite. I buy 12 at a time. Or
They
you have to
immediately
try
have
the loaded
something
monkey.
they can connect with. That is so
It's
cool.
so cool.
It
And
is-
people
it is
love it.
community,
And
for sure.
everyone talks to each other in our stores, which is like customer wise. I mean, it's super cool.
I
We
think
love
that's
it.
awesome. So your life does not end at your food allergy or diagnosis.
Right.
And
No.
your healthy life begins.
Totally.
Or
You're
even
going
if
to feel
it's-
so much better.
If it's any of the major food groups that's in all the processed food, gluten, soy, dairy, corn, that's in everything. Like if you can't eat any of those items, you just suddenly, it's a different world. And
Especially if you've eaten a sad diet, standard American diet, which is very sad, predominantly, and you're told
that.
you need to go like gluten, dairy, soy, or even just
Or just
gluten
one of
free
them.
or dairy free. It's so overwhelming.
Sure.
Because people don't understand it. If you're used to being a drive-through goer, it's going to be really hard for you to adjust to cutting out one of those items.
That's why I think that we should start the Unrefined Bakery inpatient rehab.
Yes,
because
let's do that.
because if you
We're on
you
board.
check yourself in, these are a few of the things that
Yeah.
you're going to be exposing yourself to.
100%.
Would you like to talk about this?
well, it's one of our first 19 items. People literally take it and they come back and they say, "What'd you put in that?"
It's called the mix.
It's called the mix. They apparently can't duplicate the spices in it because they try. They're like, I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried and I can't get it. And I sat down to watch a football game and next thing I knew it was gone. Like, what did you put in it, crack? For 10 years, that's been the description of this
Yeah.
food. It's our only
People
product
love it.
that's made
Is
from
it rude to
conventional.
eat live on the show?
You go.
Well,
I'm going to try it, man.
It's our only item that has conventional grains in it. But again, it was one of our first 19 items, and people would kill us if we got rid of it.
And it's in a lot of...
Oh, I've had it.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, yeah.
Eric's like, I've had this before.
So it's like all the Eatsies carry it. It's one of Phil Romano's favorite products
Yeah.
in
Oh,
Dallas.
E.T. Scary?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. They've carried it for 10
Years.
years, 9 years.
Dan McDowell talked about that on the ticket.
They were super
Are
early.
you serious?
So I would normally mute my mic here, but I
No,
you're
no,
gonna
you
crunch it?
shouldn't. It's crunchy and awesome. It's a good bar snack. So kids of all ages,
How you
adults.
thinking, Dr. Ken? Oh, he's shoveling more.
It's so good. So people love the mix. That's you know,
really good.
it's unique. It's,
Oh my goodness.
It definitely doesn't necessarily fit our profile in general for what we do. It's just a fun snack.
So we have a box here
Mm-hmm.
of some of the treats. I haven't seen them yet, but I will say that one of the coolest things beyond even the food is your logo and your colors. I think the boxes are cool.
Thanks.
So when you gift things, which
Isn't
my
that
wife and I have
fun?
done,
Yes.
it looks awesome.
Yeah.
It's not just some
Thank you.
throwaway box. It
Anybody
looks cool.
anybody has a
We
pink
put
or
money
white
into
box,
branding
right?
from the get-go. Like that's one of the things we did.
So in here
that looked so good.
we have
Okay.
some incredible
Taylor, why don't you
delectable.
tell them what they are?
Yes.
All right, now, well, as you do this, is this all? We know it's gluten free. Is it
It's
soy?
all gluten, soy, dairy,
This is
and
blowing my
corn-free
mind.
and
No
organic.
way.
So I'm going to hold this one up.
Sure.
That's the
so
loaded-
that's our loaded monkey.
That's a loaded
The
monkey.
loaded
The
monkey.
loaded monkey.
And warm that thing up for like 10 seconds in a microwave. Oh my lord, it is
So it's a
unbelievable.
banana chocolate chip cake, and it has chocolate peanut butter fudge filling and a peanut butter on buttercream. So this is probably
my.
one of our cupcakes I'm the most proud of, and I think Anne probably is as well. So
Yes.
this happens to be one of our cows. It was last week's chocolate raz. So it's a chocolate raspberry
Raspberry.
cake. But what I'm so proud about that cake, so that chocolate cake, I think is the best cake we have, and it is free of every food allergy. I mean, obviously you could technically be allergic to anything, but it's free of gluten, dairy, soy, corn, tree nuts, peanuts, and eggs. People
and
are
it's
like,
literally like 60% less sugar.
people are like, well, what is it? What's in it? Like unicorn
60% less
tears
sugar?
Oh, it's
and
so much
pixie
less sugar.
dust.
All
It's
of our
awesome.
cake is about 50% less sugar. I literally just chop the sugar, and you can see how small the icing is.
Sure.
And it's not because we're cheap; it's because it's by design.
Right.
We think you just need enough.
Right.
You know, it's fat and it's sugar. You just need enough. Now the icing is awesome, but like most cupcake places, the icing's like this tall and
It's
the cake's like that
organic
tall.
fat and
it's
organic
fat and
sugar.
sugar. Yes.
That's vanilla.
Yeah.
This is a vanilla.
But
cupcake.
then that one's even less
Vanilla,
sugar.
vanilla.
Like we really try.
I like this new role that Eric's doing. This is a vanilla cupcake.
Vanilla.
So that's.
Are you Vanna?
So yeah.
Sort of.
Totally.
Vanna?
Just Van.
So that's our carrot with unbuttercream. So our standard icing is called unbuttercream, which is just our buttercream, but it's dairy free.
No
so
butter.
it's unbuttercream.
Nice.
Combination of
Is
organic
it,
fats.
just out of curiosity, is it ghee or
No,
no?
it's not.
Wow.
It's just a
No.
blend of oils,
Nice.
and the secret
organic.
is the secret is how we make it.
Is it a spoiler alert if I ask what kind of flour you're using in that one in the
Oh
carrot?
no,
They're all different. Oh man, Anne, go back to when you always put the recipes
so
together.
Carrot is white rice, tapioca, and sorghum.
Oh, good job, Taylor.
Oh, this is no joke. You guys were like really experimenting back in the day because if you're combining all, it's usually that one's almond flour. Oh, that one.
Oh
is,
no,
flour.
they're all all at least 3, if
So
not
that's
5,
part-
6, 7
Oh,
flowers.
this is what makes it so,
that's
successful.
part of-
That's what
Yeah.
makes it work. And then this one, the white one has. I totally threw away the book and started over on that one because
It's super good.
it was too dark. Taylor's like, people say it's too dark. I need a white cake, and I'm like, we're an organic bakery with brown sugars and brown flours, and you want a white cake.
Yeah, we
So-
didn't want a whole wheat.
But let me say,
wheat, but-
white rice, sweet rice, arrowroot, potato starch, and sorghum. I think, or
Wow.
and
And
tapioca.
tapioca.
A lot
Like
of
a lot.
You're like a
That was the
chemist.
one
Chocolate.
took. Yeah, that's when it took like 52 hours.
Is it just called chocolate?
That's just our classic chocolate.
Oh,
Classic
it's
chocolate.
so good.
Also
It's the base
vegan.
of that one.
Yeah, it's same cake. It's
And
awesome.
then the last one that's in here.
So that's our fudge brownie
Here, take
with
it out of the-
we put it in the big cup so it doesn't fall over.
Gotcha.
So that's our fudge brownie. Have you had our brownies, Eric?
I have not had the fudge brownie.
You will
Does
be
your
addicted.
wife like chocolate?
She's actually kind of on the fence on chocolate.
Okay, well then so am I. The chocolate's really not my jam, but it is like fudgy and rich and has a nice. It's awesome.
One lady years ago,
It has 5 ingredients. The cake, the brownie itself.
in 10
which is
10
nuts.
years, one person has said, "Oh, I didn't care for it," and I said, "You didn't care for it?" And she goes, "I said, can you tell me why?" And she goes, "Well, it's ooey gooey on the inside and it's crispy chewy on the outside." And I said,
You've nailed
"Yes,
it.
that's right." And she goes, "No, I don't like it." I'm like, "Well, that was what we intended."
Well,
so
if you wanted
This
a
was not
cake
for
like
you.
brownie, eat the cupcake.
Eat the cupcake. The yin and the yang of chocolate.
That
Yep.
is
So
awesome.
those are just some treats.
Thank y'all so much for bringing all of
you're
this
welcome.
stuff. Y'all are the very first ones on the Gut Check Project, episode 30, to show food to
Well,
anybody.
And did we know that there was
Oh.
video in
No,
this?
we
no,
thought this
we
was
did
radio.
not.
Y'all are not the first ones that we're surprised that we even do a podcast.
No, I knew. Well, I was like, is it radio or podcast? I'm like, surely it's podcast, right? So then I Googled it and found that I'm like, it's a podcast, which my mother will be very happy about because now she gets to listen to it. Because she said, how can I listen? I'm like, let's hope it's a podcast. I'm like, it is.
Nice.
Well,
You
like
can listen to it.
like all things, this podcast sort of started out as just we were with Spoonie Radio, and then Eric and I decided that this is really a way for us to learn some stuff. And man, I love your story. This is so cool. How I built this. This is a fantastic story.
Go ahead.
Shout out. If it were me, we would have gone under years ago with the best product ever. Luckily, it's not just me. And she has kept us alive, kept us afloat, done the books.
Thank
kept
God you let your
everything.
daughter help you out in your
I
business
know, thank
venture.
God. I let her sit in
Yeah.
the corner, critter in the corner.
You
and
got
do
to be a
some
proud
food work.
mom. That's awesome.
Oh, I'm so proud.
You should be
I'm
so proud of her.
Yeah, I'm so proud.
So I don't want to lose anybody. I know we're going to the show notes. We'll have all of the links that you sent
Okay.
over, et cetera. But where can people find Unrefined Bakery online and then find your locations?
So you can go to our website, unrefinedbakery.com. And then locations we have across Dallas-Fort Worth. So we have one in Fort Worth, one in Frisco, one in Rockwall, and then we have 4 in Dallas proper. So we have our brand new Uptown location that opened a little less than a month ago.
Oh, that's not going to do well at all.
Yeah, it's a terrible
Goodness
location.
gracious.
So it's right at
A
Pearl.
block off the park.
It's
like,
right
oh
at
my
Pearl and
Lord.
McKinney. It's a pretty awesome location. We have our Medallion Center location, our Preston Center location, and our Lower Greenville Avenue location.
And as we referenced earlier, everyone can order online, of course, for shipping no
Absolutely.
matter where they are.
Yes,
Correct?
Right.
of course.
All right.
Right.
And we gave a little discount code to your followers. Too.
Yes, everyone, you'll see it in the show notes. And if you happen to be looking at gutcheckproject.com, gutcheckproject.com, if you're only listening on the podcast or Apple Player, gutcheckproject.com, go to the show notes where we've had Unrefined Bakery. It's episode number 30, and then you'll see the link with the discount code specifically from us. We'll probably also make the code available at the GI clinic. And
Yeah, that's awesome.
We can even do we do a lot of research, and so but our background, we always try and find things. We should do the whole unrefined challenge, where it's basically, if you're making an appointment with me, it may take a little while anyways, I'm going to challenge you that I need you to eat 12 cupcakes, log your bloating score, come in with the empty box, and then tell me how you feel. I'm like, you probably have celiac.
yeah, that'll be awesome.
And don't forget that it's not just cupcakes.
Oh,
Right.
breads, doughs.
We
Yes.
make the staples that you need in your life. The cupcakes are fun, but you need
We didn't
breads
even
and
have
you need
cupcakes for the first year. Like
Right.
literally, we were a bread and food bar bakery.
and that is not
So-
a staple.
So knowing that people eat like whatever 10 billion chicken wings, we get people. The Super Bowl's coming up here. We got what is the unrefined pick for the Super Bowl here coming up, and everybody needs to get a bag of the mix for the Super Bowl.
You should probably get more than one bag.
Oh, and
Yes.
a tray of brownies and pizza. Oh, and Uptown store is selling pizza.
I'm gonna give you a hint. Take the Chiefs because Mahomes is from Texas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The cheese.
solid.
Yeah.
And it's
The
been,
cheese.
what, 50
years.
So check
They're
us
hungry.
if you're only watching us for the first time because you're fans of Unrefined Bakery. Check out Gut Check Project. Like and share. This is what we do all of the time. We talk about health topics. We talk about food topics.
And please connect with us when you go and do the cupcake of the week, the
cow.
the
The
cow.
and you have ideas, and
Send them to us.
we want to start intermingling our groups together.
Yeah, for sure.
Super proud of what you guys have. Super proud that you offer food for my patients because I have a huge celiac group, huge food sensitivity group. And now I'm going to just start funneling it. I'm thrilled that we have this show for one reason only, that I can get one of my patients to walk in your store and start crying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tears of joy.
It'll be awesome.
It's awesome.
Well, Taylor, Ann, thank y'all so much
Thank
for
you.
driving
Thank
over to
y'all.
hang out with
Appreciate
us.
it.
Super
It's an
fun.
awesome
Can
show.
we do this a couple more hours? This is fun.
Oh, you can.
Okay,
Y'all
let's
can come back more. Bring some more bread.
Oh, bring
some- I'll bring
bread next
yeah,
time.
we'll
Okay.
we'll do anything. We'll bake a pizza, whatever it takes.
Perfect.
Well, that'll do it for episode 30. Dr. Brown, anything else?
No, this is awesome. Thank you so much. Once again, a mother-daughter team, not
Team.
We're a
Equal
team.
partners.
equal
Team.
partners.
Yes.
Rockin', I wish you both the most success. You come from a place of love. You come from a place of caring, and it shows. Everybody can taste it in your food. Congratulations. And
Thanks.
wow, great job.
You bet.
Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate it.
See y'all next time.
Thanks.
Bye.